Please welcome to the show, Bill McClintock. Oh, maybe I mispronounced your name already.
No, you're good. That's it. Thank you.
Bill McClintock. All right, there you go. Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know. Then I was suddenly second guessing myself. Like, is there another way to pronounce that?
No,
McClintock.
you nailed it. Perfect.
Oh, okay.
No.
Hey, Bill, thank you so much for joining us today. We are look, we're big fans of 1980s music. And then we discovered your YouTube channel there, and you're taking some great songs, many of which seem to happen at least one. So, okay, for folks that don't know, you create mashups, and I guess in layman's terms, what's a mashup?
So the way I describe it is it's basically two songs happening at the same time. So the vocal track from one song and the instrumental track from another song, putting them together, making them work, trying to make it sound like a real song, like it could have been that way originally. But that's basically it.
So what we noticed was, look, we'd be fans anyway, but many of your songs, and we just looked anecdotally here, that many of them feature at least one song, so either the music or the vocals, as you describe it, from the 1980s. And there's a few, at least one that comes to mind. I mean, your most recent one, actually, is both songs are from the 1980s, where you combined Black Magic from Slayer with Prince's Let's Go Crazy.
Yeah, that's true. Yep, both from the 80s. So, yeah, I'm a fan of the 80s as well, definitely. I was born in the 80s, 1980.
Okay.
All right.
So I live for all that music. And I like a lot of older stuff, definitely 80s included. And then, the mashups I do a lot of times, it's stuff from the 80s, but it could be a lot of different genres, certainly hard rock or heavy metal. And then, a lot of the pop stuff as well. And even some disco, and it's maybe more 70s, but, possibly early 80s as well. So, yeah.
And speaking of 1980s music, and now you tell us you're being a fan, it seems like there's maybe, well, you tell me this. Is there any group, because it seems like there's some that come up more than once or twice. Is there any, what's the most, I guess the group that you've used most often as a source of music or vocals?
That's a good question. Metallica, I've used a lot.
Okay. Yeah.
I've used Slayer a lot. I've used Black Sabbath a lot. So more of the hard rock stuff, definitely. I mean, those are the ones that come to mind right off the bat. And it's, a lot of times that has to do with availability of the stems, being able to find those isolated tracks, whether it's the isolated vocals or the instrumental where the vocals have been removed from it.
Right.
And that's part of the reason why. I mean, I love those bands as well, and that's part of why I used what I use. And Eddie Van Halen, definitely. I've used Van Halen stuff and a lot of just Eddie Van Halen's guitar solos. I'll just throw in a random mashup. I do that all the time. I love him. He's my favorite guitarist for sure.
So of the 80s music is then metal or rock? Is that more the genre of music that you like from that era?
I would say so. I mean, I do like the pop stuff as well, but I would say I probably know more about the hard rock and metal stuff, or even like the hair bands, that kind of stuff. I do. I enjoy all of that.
Right. Awesome. Now I know you were in. Did you have a question, Kat?
No.
No, she just likes saying random shit.
Oh.
Yeah, like somebody else I know.
See, this is our mashup, Bill.
I see. I like that.
If we could get Ozzy in here singing a cappella, that would be fantastic. Then we'd get some actual listeners and viewers. So speaking of Ozzy, though, I know you were inspired by another YouTube masher-upper of things who combined, and sorry, I don't remember his name, you'll have to remind me, who combined Crazy Train and September together.
Yeah. That's DJ Cummerbund.
Oh, Cummerbund, right, that's right.
He's been, I don't know how long he's been doing them, but his was like that mashup you just talked about is pretty much what kind of gave me the push to actually try this myself, because I thought that was so cool. Just the whole concept of taking songs that are very different musically, different genres, but they're also compatible just because of the music theory behind it, being in the same keys, same tempo, and vocal phrases kind of fit in with the music, the way that that sound really natural. And that just intrigued me. And I'm like, I want to try to do this, and I think I can. And I know the kind of basics of how to do it as far as having to mix the music together, because I've done a little bit of that before I started doing mashups, but I learned a whole lot of how to mix music together just kind of on the go, learn as I go kind of a thing. But yeah, DJ Cummerbund, he's the one who kind of inspired me to start doing them. So yes, very cool thing.
What had you been? It's interesting. Like, is certainly anybody. Look, now you've got I don't know, hundreds of thousands, millions of views on some of your videos, but there aren't millions of Bill McClintocks doing this kind of thing. And there's probably at least a dozen that said, "Hey, I'd like to try this now too." I guess it's curious, and not necessarily have the ability to do it, but it's curious to me that what was it in your background or experience that obviously there was something already there that when you saw that a light goes off.
Yeah, and I kind of, I get asked that question, and the way I answered is I just have been kind of gaining the skills to do it over the years, and like training to do it, not realizing that I was, and that's kind of what the stuff I've been learning is leading up to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, just my background, I started playing guitar when I was 14. Took guitar lessons through high school, ended up going to college for music technology. So I went to Duquesne University in Pittsburgh, and got a music technology degree, and then started teaching guitar after that. And now I teach it in a school. I teach elementary music. So I have that, just a music theory background, and just a working knowledge of things that'll work together as far as keys and tempos and how to do that. And the technology, definitely learning how to do basic sound recording, sequencing music, mixing it, mastering it, all of that kind of stuff that I learned when I was in school. So I've been able to use that. I never knew that this is what I was going to do with it, but it ended up happening that way. And like I said, I just love that concept of taking two songs that are familiar already. The vocals, the instrumental of the other song, and just making them go together. And it's like, there's a certain, I have to try so many combinations before I find something that's like, oh, that's really cool. I love the way those two songs sound together. This is definitely happening. And then it becomes so much fun at that point, and then I get just obsessed. Like I just work and until I finally get it done.
I find that comment funny because you say vocals that like I know Slayer, I know Overkill, I know a lot of these bands you use, but you say it like everybody knows these bands.
No.
Like I'm watching your videos and I'm like, oh my God, he just used Overkill. I'm like, that's awesome.
And I'm watching and I'm like, who's that?
And she's like, yeah, who the hell is Overkill? So.
Right. So it depends on, I guess, what my goal is. A lot of times I'll use music that a lot of people don't know. You're right. Like, a lot of people don't know about Overkill or, the Slayer songs that I'm using and that kind of thing. But I enjoy that kind of thing. And I love mixing those things up with pop music because it's just funny, Yeah. And I find that the ones that will become the most popular and get the most views ultimately are the ones where both songs are already known really well, because I think that's going to just draw a bigger audience, because you have all these people on this side who like this song and, this Metallica song, and then people who like this Huey Lewis song, and then, put them together.
That's a good one.
That's cool.
That's my favorite.
You know what the best part of that, though, is the Megadeth and Judas Priest solos.
Oh, yeah.
That's my favorite part because I didn't see that coming at all.
And most people wouldn't know that you pieced it together from different songs.
Right. I'd like to tell you my favorite.
Sure.
Oh my gosh. The Vank Whalen, Your Jumpin' Heart.
Yeah.
I can't get enough of that.
That's
it's amazing because it's just so opposite. It's amazing.
They are, and I've never used a country song before. I'm not a country fan, and so the way that I came about that was, I don't really know Your Cheatin' Heart. I've heard it, but the way I found it was just doing a search on a karaoke website where they have a database of a ton of songs that you can download the karaoke versions, but they also have a search feature where you can search by key or search by tempo. And then I knew Jump by Van Halen, 130 beats per minute, key of C major. So I just put those two things in, and I went through a couple pages, and then I just saw this country song. I'm like, just randomly kind of clicked on it. And I was like, oh shit, this is kind of cool.
It's my absolute favorite.
And I was so hesitant to do it. I'm like, ooh, because of the audience that I have, like, I've never done a country song before. So I just did like kind of a little feeler. I I just did a screen recording on my computer, just so that like maybe a minute that I had already done. And I posted it on Facebook. I'm like, oh, I don't know, I might lose a lot of subscribers with this. But then like all these people were liking it and commenting like, oh my God, no, you have to do this. This is great. So
Wow.
okay.
It is great.
I'll
I'm
do
not a
it.
country fan. I don't like country,
Yeah.
but it's so unexpected and just so disparate. Oh, it's brilliant.
And I think those are the ones that will be really popular as well when they're so different.
Well,
Yeah.
the funny thing about that video is that I could actually see Dave trying that.
Oh,
I will
Like-
say something about that because Dave did do an album of all country versions of Van Halen songs, and he did one. It was like
Wow.
I guess more bluegrass, I guess you could say. And
Yeah.
he did do one with Jump, but it was, I mean, it sounded like Jump. It was that chord progression. It was that kind of it was the same form, but it was all just kind of rearranged and done with bluegrass instruments.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, though. I wish he would have done your version because look, Dave's my favorite singer of all time,
Oh yeah,
but that album's trash.
yeah.
And that was another reason I heard this one, and I was like, man, I wish he would have done something like that instead.
It was so different, right? And I was just happy to see that my video got more views than his.
wow.
Like, oh, okay, that's a win right there,
Yeah, it
If
is.
only he hadn't just retired.
right?
Like,
Oh
you know,
my gosh.
look, Bill, I'm going to compliment you by complimenting myself. I've been a composer for many years, and I worked as a disc jockey for many years, and it takes a lot of effort to find these, you know, sort of holy grails of mixes that, you know, my efforts were much like yours in the sense that you wanted to find something that would get a crowd just like bonkers. Like, I can't imagine these two songs go together. I never accomplished what you did. But I have had, in the sense that you pulling from such various genres, and I don't know, what are you up to, 80, 100 videos now? Maybe I had 4 or 5 surprising mixes. But I do know that moment that you experience when you put two songs together that you suspect might go together, and then holy crap, the changes and all these things are happening at the same times. And
Yeah.
when you put a Van Halen together with the country song, what is that like when you just have a suspicion and finally you get the tracks laid out and the beats are lined up and you hit play?
Yeah, well, so I mean, I can remember it pretty well. I was, you know, just sitting just up in my bedroom, just kind of looking for matches for Jump, for that vocal track, because I had been looking for probably a couple years, just here and there. I would just try to find something. I always thought, well, what do I mix it with? Because it's already a rock song, it's already a pop song, you know. So where can I go to find something different? And that was where the country thing came. I was like, okay, this is good. But yeah, that moment, just realizing like, okay, he's got like a vocal phrase, and then perfectly after that, you got that little that fiddle fill that happens right there, and then the next vocal phrase, and it was like a puzzle. It's like, oh my God, like okay, this is great. I got to do this now. So
It
yeah,
was
I mean, that's a great moment. And you know, I mean, I experienced that a lot, you know, when I find two that are just really good together and they fit. I mean, because it's more than just the tempo and the key. Musically, all of the other rhythmic elements and things like that, they have to work too. And that's what's why it takes so long to find something that really sounds like, okay, these work together. This sounds like it could be a real song, you know. But that's a great moment when that happens.
Yeah, I
And the
think
video, the visuals from the video of they're so serene in the country song, just twanging and plunking away. Of course, David Lee Roth is.
Dave's doing his dance.
Oh yeah, his little thing. Yeah.
I showed my daughter I guess right now, which is my favorite one, the Metallica Huey Lewis one. My daughter, who's 11, she didn't know why I was showing this to her. She's like, I don't get it. Because the video looks like an actual, like these folks are playing together. The music sounds like it goes together. But when I explained it to her, then her mind was blown. But at the time, you can't see the seams or hear the seams. It's pretty fantastic.
That's cool. Yeah.
You know, again, having sort of done a little bit of what you do, I thought, how is he cleaning up these vocals? Because I know the techniques for doing it, they're terrible. Usually get really low quality audio as a result of it. But You said you're just finding whatever you can. You're only using what you can find as an acapella already. On the
Right.
internet?
And most of it is from YouTube also. You know,
Wow.
I mean, I guess that these are just, I don't know how they get on YouTube, but they sound like they're just masters from the, master tracks from the studio. And I don't know who gets them, how they get on there, but they're clean. You don't really have to do anything. I mean, maybe EQ them a little bit to make them fit in the mix.
Yeah.
But there's not much. I mean, there's software that can do it, but it's better at least the software that I use, it's better at removing the vocals and leaving all the instruments than vice versa. You know, and in fact, the Huey Lewis and Metallica one, I used that. Because there's no instrumental available that's the original recording of the Huey Lewis song, so I had to go in and just run it through that plugin and remove all of his vocals and then just add James Hetfield's at that point. And so and his vocal track was really clean, so I really didn't have to do anything to that.
I would never have guessed that. Wow. I thought maybe you were slicing together various pieces where he wasn't singing to string together your own instrumental, but
I
Yeah,
have
so
done
smooth.
that. I have done that before. Sometimes, before I had that software, there's at least one that comes to mind. The Black Label Society. That's Zach Wilde's band. He guitarist for Ozzy Osbourne, with a Temptation song, and his, So I really did for that instrumental for the Black Label Society. I had to find, and luckily, I mean, I couldn't have done it, but there was like one spot a little later on in the song where they played the main riff and just played it without him singing over it, just that one part, and it was like just one repetition. I'm like, oh, cool. So now I can take that and just loop it over and over to make a verse, and it worked that way.
Wow.
I'm pausing to make sure these guys aren't saying anything.
Lots of ones I want to say too, but you go.
I
You
could
can say
talk.
whatever you
I
want. I got plenty
could
to
talk
say.
about all kinds of shit here.
You don't have
for
to, though.
hours.
I don't want us to hear from you. Okay.
So my favorite part is when you got the metal guys singing over the older songs, because like "Sweating Robins,"
Oh yeah.
I think actually proves that Dave Mustaine can actually sing.
That's a good point. And that's, what, that is, it's weird, but that is one of my favorites. It wasn't like super popular, but I like the way that they fit, and it's really, I mean, the verse, the structure of where there's just kind of like a drum beat and then like a little fill at the end. It's the same, which is why that worked. And then I had to go in and just I had to tweak the hell out of the chorus. I used a different software where you can go in and see just the two notes, like the harmony parts that are sung together, and actually lower those or raise them, whatever you have to do to make it fit that harmony. So, I mean, that sounds completely different, but I'm like, I don't care. This is supposed to be funny anyway, so I'm just going to do it.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought that made him sound fantastic.
It really brings him out front a lot more when you don't
It
have
does.
like, drums and guitars and everything.
Yeah.
For sure.
Now, if he gets his hands on that, he'll erase that track of himself and he'll replace it with himself. Because that's what he does, right? Right? Isn't that what he does? Isn't that what he
He's
gets
not. I don't think he gives a shit what he sounds like. He knows he's not a great singer, so I don't think he gives a shit. Honestly,
Yeah.
it's an ego thing for him.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. You mentioned some songs. Some songs don't work out, and I was doing a little digging, and one of your videos, I came across one of those. I love this. This is one of the ones that I don't think you ever put out there. 9 Inch Nails and Hall & Oates, where it sing to itself. Where, Kat, forgive me for swearing at this point. 9 Inch Nails, Trent Reznor sings, "I want to fuck you like an animal," and then Hall & Oates' answer says, "I can't go for that."
Right.
And they're talking back and forth.
So here's the thing with that is that that was one that I wasn't going to finish. I started it and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to develop it into a whole song. So I just kind of put it aside. And then I put that on my Patreon page and said, because I will put things up there that I don't finish just because people are interested in that. They want to see, stuff that doesn't quite make it. But then people heard that and they're like, oh, you got to do this. You got to finish it. So I did, I finished it. I put it on YouTube. It stayed up for maybe a couple weeks. And then I got a takedown notice.
Oh,
They took it down, gave me a copyright strike, whole deal.
that's interesting.
So it was
the-
there. And I don't know. I think it had maybe close to 300,000 views. So it did pretty well. And then, that was it. It was yanked.
So make a note of that. Hall and Oates are dicks, and they'll get
Yeah.
the stuff. We can't use them.
I know it
Honestly,
was Hall & Oates. It was Trent Reznor.
somebody told me that they thought
Eh.
it wasn't Trent Reznor. That
It's not
shared it,
Trent.
but he like sent it to I forget who it was, and this whoever he sent it to posted it on their
Oh, I see.
Instagram, and I think
Okay.
whoever that was had a lot of followers. So I think he was cool with it. Trent Reznor. I think he
Yeah,
was
it
fine
was.
with
He probably sent it to Daryl Hall.
He sent it to Daryl's house.
Check this out.
That's interesting because hey, look, I'm always stunned. In the brief time we ever, even when Ray and I started doing the podcast a couple years ago, we would put stuff straight up to YouTube. If we referenced, well, we had one episode. We only one time we ever got a strike. We reviewed, it was soundtracks or something. We listened to like 6 seconds, and we got 2 strikes, and we wound up whatever peeling them or whatever, and then they never responded, so they got to stay on. But it's got to be just. I was thinking with yours and so many other folks who aren't folks that aren't even transforming it into something else. They live on YouTube, no problem. Entire movies. Like how
Isn't
the
that
hell is
true?
that happening?
That is so frustrating. And I see that, and I think to I'm looking for other like Prince mashups and stuff, because I know Prince is notorious. I mean, his the
Yes,
record
his
companies
estate
are
now, yeah,
notorious
right.
for being really protective with his music.
Mhm.
And I'm surprised mine's still up. The only reason I think it's still up is because I didn't use his original music. That was a karaoke that was like pretty close. So I'm like, I can do this. And that's the only thing. I wasn't going to try to use his because I knew it would probably never even get up there to begin with. It would be blocked immediately. So I didn't even try. So I went with the karaoke, and so it's still up there. So that might save me. I don't know.
Yeah.
See if that stays up. But yeah, and I look to see if certain artists, if somebody else has their song up there and it's able to live on YouTube with no problem. But there's like no rhyme or reason for it. Like you said, they'll be on just in their original form on some random person's YouTube channel for years, and it's fine. And then I do something with it, and then they could be gone. Doesn't make
I
any
was thinking
sense.
some
'Cause
of
I'm
your-
actually doing something different with it. I don't get it.
You're too
And
popular.
I was thinking
Yeah.
YouTube must have that listening like algorithm like Shazam, like the Shazam app, right? Where it could take like a second and like a fingerprint compares it to a database. So your stuff even, it's like maybe just that little sliver of anything you didn't alter, right? Could trigger it, I suppose. But
Yeah.
otherwise it probably goes undetected because of the combination is not as unique.
It could, yeah. And I mean, I don't know how all that works, but normally I'll get an email from YouTube as soon as I upload something that says that I used copyright material, but it's fine. It can stay in there. There's no issue because I run ads on my channel.
Right.
And but it's up to the record companies. They could say no, it can't. It's going to be blocked, or it's blocked in certain territories, or if there's a formal complaint that I guess is written by a record company, it could be a takedown, which ends up in a strike. And so there's all these different levels, and then 3 strikes and you're out. So that's always a scary thing. Because I mean I back up all my stuff, so I have it, but I hate to see, because that's all those subscribers gone, and do it like would I even want to start over again? Like it would just be really frustrating.
What was your, you mentioned, so you heard DJ Cumberbund and you were inspired, and you're talking about like all the subscribers and views you have now. Was your goal to get this kind of attention? I'm sure you couldn't imagine the success you have, or was it just to do it for the sake of doing it? You're
Both.
hoping to find an audience. That's what, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I can remember starting out and really liking it, just doing them and I had a decent amount of videos up, maybe close to 20, and I had very few subscribers. I had like 50 maybe, with all those videos, and I was still making them. I was still enjoying them and doing it and everything. And, eventually it like one of them caught on, and then it was just kind of built from there. But yeah, and I can remember the beginning just trying to post them anywhere I could think of, just like going on to Reddit and finding places where I could post it on there. And I mean, it really didn't help. It didn't do much, and it really, I mean, what it takes is just for one to, I don't even know why it was this one that, everyone really, really liked. I mean, I liked it. It was the Rat and Marvin Gaye one
Right.
that I
That's
did.
a good one.
Oh,
And so that was,
out.
I heard
I
it through
didn't
the
see that one.
grapevine. It was those vocals,
Yeah.
and Round by Rat. There's more 80s. And that one, I mean, not that I don't like, I like that one. I think it's cool, but I just don't understand why that was the one that was like, all these people are seeing, millions of people and everything like that. Because I mean, I like the ones that I did up until that point too.
Yeah.
And you don't know, and that's another thing is you have no idea before you put something out if people are gonna like it or if it's just kind of not really do much. And I'm always wrong. I have no idea. This is gonna be the one. This is it. And then
that makes me laugh because I am constantly showing people raining lobsters.
That's a good
like
I love that one. Yeah.
that just is so good. And I'm
Slay
like,
52.
this is awesome. I show people that all the time. I'm like, this is the one. This has to be the one that made him famous. Has to be the one.
I mean, there were a few before that. The first one I did with Slayer was with
Katrina and the Waves.
No, it was George Michael.
George, yeah.
And
That's right.
that's another one. It's not on my channel. It's somebody else stole it from my channel and put it on theirs, which I don't care because now it's still on YouTube. It's not on my channel because YouTube took it down. I don't know, it was like maybe 600,000 views in a week or so, and that was just a cool one. And it was like, I didn't know that was going to happen.
Wow.
It was like I was at the beach. I was on vacation. It was a couple rainy days. I brought my computer and I'm like, let's see, maybe I can come up with something. And then here it is. And then all these views. I'm like, what the hell? Okay, that's great. I'm glad people like it. I mean, I liked it, but I didn't know like why that one and why not this one.
Is that ultimately all your? Is part of the calculus trying to figure out what people like, or is it just if you like it, that's what you're?
It is, and it's kind of a learn as you go kind of a thing. And the first one, like I said, the Rat and Marvin Gaye, I stick. At least sometimes I'll try to follow that same formula of doing the soul vocals over top of some hard rock or some metal, just because that was something that a lot of people liked, and I like it too. I don't feel like I'm just like, I'm doing this only because these people liked it. And I think it's a really cool thing too. So I'm happy to make more of those. And then they also respond to the opposite kind of thing, the metal vocals over pop music. Again, I love doing too. And and I did another podcast a couple days ago, and I was talking about the most recent one I did with Slayer, and that came to me. I went with my family, with my wife and my two little kids. We went to go see Sing 2 in the movie theater, that little animated movie.
Oh yeah,
and they started playing that the Prince song, "Let's Go Crazy." So it's little cartoon characters singing and dancing, and that Slayer track, that vocal track, I just kind of carry around, and every once in a while it just kind of, but I started thinking like that rhythm, like in this part of the Prince song, and then the rhythm of that vocal is exactly the same, and that they line up really well, and I'm just kind of thinking like, I think that might work. So,
are you like the movie? The movie can't get over fast enough. All right, how much is left here? I got to get to my computer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's like, well, just tuck that one away, and then as soon as I get home, try it out, and sometimes it just happens that way. It's like, okay, this is cool.
They're like, Daddy, did you like the movie? What was it? What'd you say?
Movie?
I'm sorry, I was thinking about something. What I love about that mashup is the solo at the end, how you replace Prince's solo and then the band comes back in. That was really
I love
good.
doing that part. And I was thinking, I went through a lot of different stuff, like at the end there, before I settled on that Kerry King solo. That's originally what I wanted to do. I wanted it to be one of the guitarists from Slayer doing the solo to replace Prince's solo.
Yeah.
And I mean, I like Slayer and everything, but I'm not going to say that Kerry King is necessarily respected as a lead metal guitarist as far as playing things that are melodic or musical. Or so
He's great on the Beastie Boys tracks.
Well, what's funny though, in the mashup, his hands are moving pretty similar to what the solo actually is. I was watching, and I'm like, is this altered? Because man, that looks pretty goddamn close to what it sounds like. And I'm like, but I know he can't play that good.
So what it was, it was I forget what song it was from now. Maybe South of Heaven. I can't remember.
I think it's South of Heaven.
Yeah, and I had it because that one's in E flat, so I had to move the pitch up, 3 half steps to get it into F sharp to match the Prince song, and I kind of was able to EQ it to make it sound like it was, it sounded okay. And then I found that video footage of South of Heaven. So it was, so like, I guess he played exactly the same solo live, so it matched. I'm like, okay, this is cool. But the part, the part that I like the most about that is in that video, there was a part, where he's doing the solo, and then it cuts to something else happening on stage. But instead of leaving that in, I just did like a close up of Tom Araya's face, and he's just kind of like, got this smart on his face.
Yeah.
And a lot of people comment on that. I think people would like that because it's just a kind of like a tongue-in-cheek kind of a thing, like that solo instead of Prince's solo. But yeah, and then the band comes in at the end, and then Tom Araya with his scream at the very end, and it's like,
I love
So,
the scream.
I got to ask, man, what is your opinion of Tom's screams, man? Because I'm not a big fan of his screams. I think they're trash, but nobody else does it the way he does it, so it kind of gets a pass.
yeah, I mean, I think it's okay. Definitely, I'd rather hear like Rob Halford,
Exactly.
than a scream. I mean, that got, and I saw, I guess it wasn't that recent. It was like maybe 2014. I saw a friend of mine. We went to check out the Judas Priest concert, and I don't know how old he was then, maybe 60, but my God, he hasn't lost anything. He can still, just those high notes, it's incredible. But I mean, Tom, like that one, it's the one from Angel of Death at the beginning. I've used that, I think, in every one. It doesn't matter what song it is. I have to find somewhere to put that. It's great.
It's people consider that an iconic scream, but man, that bugged the fuck out of me, that scream. God damn.
I love how you have it. Let's go crazy.
Yeah.
What?
You've kind of spoken to it, but I wondered about your starting point, like for each song. It sounds like it's maybe different, but it's like, well, gosh, like where do you start? Do you have the one song in mind, and then you search for another one that matches, or do you notice like, hey, these two are kind of similar?
It's different. So, most times I have a vocal track in mind because again, it's what I can find. So if I can find something on YouTube and like, hey, this would be really cool to use, then okay, what key is it in? What's the tempo? And then sometimes I'll look for stuff just on Apple Music. I'll be like swiping and just listening to different songs that might fit with that vocal, and then I might come up with something that way. Or searching databases by key and tempo, I might find something like that. Sometimes it's the opposite though. I might have an instrumental. I want to try to find a vocal to go over that. More often than not, it's the other way though, having the vocal first and then finding the instrumental to work with it.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Nice.
Cool.
So yeah, the only thing I want to say is I'd like you to take a crack at these two songs.
Oh.
Joe Walsh, All Night Long, and Iron Maiden, The Trooper.
Okay.
See if you can do something with that.
Joe Walsh, look, for Kat and I, right? We know Joe Walsh and we know Iron Maiden, but they're both in the genre.
You take
of
my
rock,
life, but I'll
Iron
take
Maiden-
yours too.
Okay.
They line up.
I know.
That might be cool. I might look into that.
Are they distinctly? Are they enough? Are there enough? At the other. Are they enough?
Oh, they're definitely
genre-wise.
I
Is there
think
enough
so.
contrast?
Yeah.
Yes, there you go. Good Lord.
I would say so. I think so. Yeah, I'll look into that.
All right.
Might be pleasantly surprised. We'll see.
I hope so.
This is what you got to do, Ray. You got to become
this
a
is what goes-
supporter of Bill so you
Well,
can hear it.
This is what goes on in my head.
Yeah.
Those two songs are all mixed up. So,
Yeah.
Oh, along with a lot of other stuff. I would.
there's a lot of
There's
other
a lot
stuff
of
in my
mixed
head,
up
but
in there,
yeah,
It's mixed. That's all mixed up.
it's all
Hey,
mixed up.
Bill, we're super grateful for you for joining us today. And hey, we love, like I said at the beginning, we love 1980s music, and yet you found a way to make songs we loved already for us to just find new life and new excitement and love even more. Look, that Metallica Huey Lewis combo has gotten me loving Hip to Be Square in a way that I never have. Holy cow. So thank you so much. We appreciate your time tonight, Bill.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.